live in a country where government seems to be jumping on the housing bandwagon.
About time.
And they're making big promises to build, 3.8 million homes. Sorry, not billion, million. Sounds like billion.
May as well be.
And most recently, the city of Oakville just voted on returning the Government of Canada's accelerator fund money because they don't want density. Now, I didn't think that would be on the fucking bingo card, but something has triggered it.
Of course.
Here's NIMBYism, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's NIMBYism.
Yeah.
So, like, has government overstepped? Has government made promises that they just can't deliver? And, like, who's buying into this bullshit? Because it seems like it's not going to happen.
Well, first of all, if you're asking me if the government has overstepped and made false promises, the answer is fuck yeah. Obviously, as they all have and all do, and that's a bipartisan opinion. I'm not going to get really into my politics here, but you can probably guess what they are. I think that our current government has started to become very vocal recently, very timely in an election cycle, and very timely in the sense that you couldn't ignore or avoid the problems that had come to be throughout your term. So, the Oakville thing, look, I know some friends. I got some friends that live in Oakville. They're the type, okay? They don't
NIMBYism.
They don't want you there. They don't want anyone there. They barely want me visiting. You know what I mean?
Not in your car.
Not in my car. Not with this hair. But look, Oakville. There's going to be more of that, right? Like you think Shaughnessy or some of these other pick an affluent neighborhood anywhere in whether it's Halifax or Calgary.
It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And the real question is, dare I say it, should it happen in those neighborhoods? Like, do families want to go in and be in the one, 5-plex within McMansions everywhere?
Listen, at the end of the day, this is a total clusterfuck. And the reality is government is stepping in a space that they have no business being in. And they've put their nose in a whole industry that they've actually just fucked up. Mistake after mistake after mistake. And at the end of the day, it's all about who you're letting in. I've been knocking on this student visa issue for years. Yeah. When they went over 300,000 student visas, I said, guys, this is going to create a fucking problem. You're starting to take away housing that's designed and meant for residents, and landlords are going to be more appealing to students because they're nomadic.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're only going to be here a year, 2 years. I get to reset my rents. I don't have to deal with rent control. I don't have to deal... I was knocking on this door for years and no one would listen. And all of a sudden, here we are. It's a fucking shit show.
Yeah,
I don't know how people could not blame this government. Like they're finger pointing. It's like fucking Abbott and Costello, who's on first, what's on second skit, right? Like everybody's blaming each other. It's a fucking joke. And the reality is you have the keys to who walks into this door. Okay? And if you're not counting who's coming in, that's on you.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's getting to the point where it's a joke. It's an absolute, like who's controlling this shit? Benjamin Tal mentioned we got 1 million potential people that have gone past their expiry date on their visas.
Who's monitoring that?
Who's monitoring? Like Canada Border Services Agency, all they ask about is, do you have meat or cheeses when you come in the country? Yeah. Like they're not fucking asking, can I see your valid visa permit? No, do you have any meat or cheeses? Have you visited a farm? Like that's all they fucking care about. And it almost makes you wonder who the fuck is running things, because it's an absolute gong show.
It almost makes you wonder if that has something to do with, getting those votes for certain people. We won't get into that, but I completely agree. I think in a lot of ways, numbers always speak louder than words, right? And if you all you needed to do, and this probably, you were probably saying this before this shit started to happen, but all you needed to do in the last couple of years was look at these colleges, whether it was the real colleges that we know and that have existed for long periods of time, or the ones that randomly popped up in the shitty strip mall, 3 blocks away from, your nearest gas station, that were handing out degrees left, right, and center. And when those went up by the thousands of percent, not like, hey, wow, we doubled in size. We went from
like Conestoga College
that grew almost 4,000%. If anything grows 4,000%, look at the stuff that's grown 4,000% in the last couple of years. Okay, GameStop, Nvidia, cryptocurrencies. They've all been massive red flags. They've all had government attention. They've all had, interactions with mainstream media and everything like that. But how does, this happen, and it kind of goes under the, behind the curtain, under the rug, whatever you want to call it, for this amount of time. And then only now to be like, oh shit, there might be an issue here. And not only that, but again, going back to, who we're letting in, we should be letting in people that are going to be contributing to our economy, that we can allow to contribute to our economy, right? Like this is supposed to be a mutually beneficial relationship. Right now, no one's benefiting. Yeah. The people that came here are pissed, and I don't blame them. And
they were sold a bill of goods that doesn't exist.
They're sold a false dream, false hope, false dream. And the people that are here that are seeing the negative effects of millions of new people with no plan built around it are also pissed. So now we just have everyone pissed off and no solution. So I mean, look, we've got a long way to go. It took us a long way to get here. We've got a long way to go to get back out of it, right? I mean, housing crisis and recessions aren't created overnight, right? I mean, we were speaking about the last recession, really, which was in the 90s, right? Late 80s, early 90s. 30 years ago, here we are. Okay, we'll fix this in the next 5-10 years. And another 30 years, because humans don't learn the lessons, another 30 years we'll be back